Alright, so we're checking out the Happymodel Mobula7 1S Express ELRS edition. So this one was announced a while back, and then I think some of you guys saw it on Banggood, and I got a lot of questions on when it was going to be available. And then they took the listing down because Happymodel was having a lot of trouble getting parts for their all-in-one flight controller board, and specifically in this case, the MPU6000 gyro. So it basically has the same parts as the original Mobula7 the Mobula7 1S. It's got that new X12 all-in-one or 5-in-1 flight controller board. It's got the 400 milliwatt video transmitter, 4-in-1 12 amp ESCs. It's got the built-in Express LRS receiver, and it's a 1 to 2S board. And this one came with the MPU6000 gyro. So they had trouble getting that, and so they had to redesign the board for the, I think it's the ICM 20689 gyro. And so now they're making the board with that gyro, which is what it's on this version. So this is the version 2 of the X12 all-in-one flight controller board with the new gyro. So I think they're ramping up production now. At the time of the recording of this video, it's still not in any of the stores, but I'm not going to release this video until you guys can buy it, because whenever I release videos and no one can buy it, you guys get really pissed off. So that's why, and I know there's people that are like wondering where this video is, because I've already shown this in the Mobula6 video, but it might be a while depending on when it comes out in stores. So again, part shortages is the big culprit. So it's got the same frame as before, the same prop, the same motors, the 0802 20,000 kV motors, these new ones. It's got for the HD system, it's got this RunCam Split 3 Lite. So it's a 1080p camera, 60 frames per second. It's like around, I think it's around 30 or 40 megabits on the bitrate, not particularly super high. Now you can see that the split board is actually sitting on top of the flight controller board, and this is where the SD card for the HD camera goes right here. And you see the board right here. There's the camera, and then this antenna here is for the video transmitter. And there's a micro UFL connector somewhere on the main flight controller board for that. The Express LRS antenna is this little copper antenna here. And I got a lot of comments about these little copper antennas on the Mobula video. They will not short out anything because they're covered with like an enamel coating, which is the same kind of enamel coating that's on the motor wires. So if you're wondering, well, how come motor wires don't short out against each other? It's because they have this enamel coating on it. So I've got a few comments about that. This is a very complicated build, and there's a lot of, I didn't really want to take it apart because there's a extra 5-volt regulator in between the HD board and the flight controller board, because this camera takes up a lot of eats up a lot of juice. So there's a lot of wires you can see here. They're kind of like just kind of barely, they're tucked away nicely. I didn't have any cut wires from the props, but for example here you got this is the main MIPI cable, and it's covered in some tape that's going from the camera board to the camera sensor module here, where this is the lens module. And you can see it's very close to the props here. Obviously in a really bad crash, if anything, things bend, it could possibly hit that. So you gotta be careful. And yeah, this is a very complicated build. And then what makes this even a little bit more complicated is that in order to add gyro flow support, they added a micro SD card reader in the bottom here. I think it's like based off of the open logger thing. And so this little reader uses one of the open UARTs. So this board is a F411 based board, so it's got 2 open UARTs. Because this is Express LRS, obviously the receiver is SPI, so it doesn't use one of the UARTs, which makes this one UART available for this SD card reader, and then the other UARTs for the video transmitter smart audio. And of course we got the standard PH 2.0 connector down here. This is somewhat tricky to get that SD card in and out of here. It is level with the battery tray. You can see you can still slide the batteries in and out here. You got this Kapton tape here to prevent anything to get shorted. But yeah, getting that SD card is kind of fiddly. It works, but getting in and out of here is it takes a little bit of practice. But yeah, the system does work with GyroFlow. I'm probably showing some footage already. I'll just kind of give you some general ideas of how to put in the proper settings for GyroFlow. So obviously you're going to get the video file from the SD card here. You're going to get the gyro data from the SD card over here. And then you have to, when you do the auto sync, you have to give it a window of whatever it is between the time the recording starts and the time you arm. So the gyro data doesn't start until you arm, but the camera will start recording when you plug it in. So whatever, it just depends on every pilot. Every pilot's different. If you plug it in and it starts recording and then you don't arm it for 10 minutes, then your search window is going to be 10 minutes. Most people, they'll put it down, within 10 seconds, 15 seconds of plugging in, and then they'll take off. So for me, it was about 10 seconds, plug it in, ready to go, put the goggles on, and I take off. And so when you, in GyroFlow for your search window, what's called rough gyro offset, put in approximately what you think is the time between the plug-in time and the arming time. And then for the search window, usually like 10 seconds is good enough. And it'll do a pretty good auto sync. I put in about, for me, the more sync points seem to be better. So I usually do about 6 to 10, depending on how long the flight is. And also regarding the flight time, it's about 3 minutes on this 520 1S battery from GMB. And yeah, I'll give you the weight and everything here in a second. Back to the GyroFlow, I use the RunCam Split 3 Lite camera preset. There's 3 of them that are in there when you put that in the search box. All 3 of them are unofficial, but they all seem to work about the same. I tried them all. For the rotation value, you have to put in the pitch angle of the camera, which is approximately 20 degrees. And that, otherwise you'll get some pretty wacky results on the lens correction. And then because there's a lot of vibration in the system because it's so small, I used a low pass filter value of about 40 hertz, and that seemed to be good. If you too much more than that, if you go lower like 30 or 20, it doesn't seem to improve anything, and then you get some sort of strange results if you do any more than that. And that's pretty much it in terms of the settings. I was using the latest GyroFlow version 1.01. If you guys weren't aware, 101 is now out now, and that does fix up a lot of bugs. But it works pretty much the same as the other RC versions. Now, you guys are probably like, well, are you going to talk about the ND filter? Where did that come from? Well, this is not stock. You can see here, this is, I think, for the Mavic, the original Mavic from like ages ago, and it has like because of the metal ring there, and it's not quite the right size for this lens. I get some vignetting, but once you put it in a GyroFlow, that vignetting, the little edges of the ND filter kind of go away because it's kind of zoomed in a little bit, and it's just held in here. It's a little bit too big for this lens, so it's actually held in here with the canopy by friction on the sides. And yeah, I don't know where this is sold. I bought it off Amazon like years ago. If I find something similar, I'll list it down in the video description. But there isn't really anything out there else that you can use. But I did want to try to use the ND filter here to reduce the shutter speed, so to kind of reduce that jello, because in any kind of bright light conditions outdoors, there's a fair amount of jello you can see in the footage. And that's just because the camera's hard mounted to the frame, and all the prop and motor vibrations just go right into the camera lens. I suppose if they redesign this and put in some extra dampeners here, like another layer of dampeners, and raise the camera up, that could possibly work. That's something I'm going to suggest to them to help with the camera vibrations. But then you'll need a longer screw here as well. So maybe you might see that in a later revision. But the ND filter does seem to help with the jello, so that's why I did that. probably showing you a little bit of footage from both. But yeah, it's an interesting, if you're looking for like a super light sort of all-in-one type Cinewhoop, it's an interesting idea. I'm not particularly a fan of the RunCam split cameras because they only go up to 1080p, and there's a lot of better cameras out now. If this did like 2.7K or 4K, I'd be a lot happier. But again, I don't know how much this is going to be costing. Probably not going to be too expensive. Probably cheaper than buying like a separate like Go-To or something like that, and like maybe doing a conversion of this. So, it's pros and cons, right? This is probably going to cost less, but of course you get a little bit less in terms of video quality. But then, it's, you get what you pay for. So, some people are probably going to buy perhaps this one here with no split camera and then put the RunCam thumb on top. I've seen people do that, and that's about $50. That also works with gyro flow. So, there's a lot of different ways you can approach it. This is just one kind of an all-in-one type of solution. So anyway, the drone, ND filter, 2 SD cards. It's coming at almost 34 grams, and then with the battery, it's all up weights here if the battery will stay on. All right, so now we're coming in at a little over 47 grams. So it's it doesn't feel super heavy. These motors and this prop setup is pretty decent. I feel like I have pretty good control. I don't feel like I can have like a monstrously good power, so I can do like 5-inch type freestyle tricks or anything like that. But it's got good enough power. The pid tune is, I would call, good enough. I don't think that they could improve it anymore to get rid of the jello. I know some people are like, oh, they should just do a better pid tune and the jello go away. I don't believe that's the case here because of the way it's designed and because the camera lens module is hard mounted to the frame. If you disagree with me, let me know what it is that they've overlooked in the pid tune that can fix that problem with the camera being mounted directly to the frame. I am curious about that. I've heard people say that it's just a pid tune problem, but they never bother to explain how they did it. They just say that, oh, I fixed it. Well, that's not very useful. So if you're just going to put a comment down like that in the comment section, please don't do that because that's just going to piss me off. I would like an explanation of why that is. Anyway, I think that's going to do it for this video. Again, by the time you see this video, there should be links down in the video description to where you can buy it. Hopefully, it won't cost too much. I don't even know how much it's going to cost. So, yeah, sorry about that. Anyway, that's going to do it for this one. Talk to you later.